Okay. Oh, very odd. That's usually at the bottom, and it was in its own menu today. All right. Well, we're doing Mining the Real, looking at the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And we left off, let's see, where are we at present? I think we're at Festival at Panahati. Is that right? Page 399. I'm on page 545 in my online text. We've been, let me see if I can find out. We're 14 pages into, oh, good Lord, what was that? It's just here. Oh, no. Anyway, it must have made a mistake.
You have the date, Swami? We can look it up from the date.
I've lost everything now.
Oh, okay.
I've lost my place. I've lost where we are. And now I've really done it. So,
I thought we were on page 354 on this book. That is where I had my marker.
okay. Well, we're in
M at
we're in,
Dakshineshwar.
we're in M at Dakshineshwar, are we?
Yes.
Okay.
Part 1. And date is Saturday, December 22nd, 1883.
Yeah, and that's what I have, Swami.
All right, that's what I have also. But let me find the exact verse. All right. So we've been talking about, actually in sort of in Jnanic terms, we've been talking. And Ramakrishna makes the statement that the path of jnana is very difficult in this age, to keep everything, because you spend all of that time meditating, not being the body, withdrawing yourself from mind, neti, 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 and then you go to work, which is really anti-sadhana. It goes the opposite way. You, of course, are a body. You, of course, have a mind. Everybody's talking to you as such, and you're interacting as such. And so all that work that you did in your morning meditation to withdraw from body-mind is now required for you to do the opposite, to be body and mind. And so with the way the modern world is, where we have to work so much just to survive, Ramakrishna says that really this age is not conducive to a jnana realization, that the path of devotion is really the way to go in this age. And he says that's why God incarnates himself here in this first paragraph. That's why God incarnates himself as a man and teaches people the path of devotion. He exhorts people to cultivate self-surrender to God, right? Because the one problem that is central to all religions, this is the crux of the Sanatana Dharma, is the removal of egoism, is to end this idea that you exist separate and apart from the whole, right? It's realizing that you are the dreamer and not the dreamed, right? Every night you become a character in a dream and you forget the body that's gone to bed. You forget the body and its story and its memories and its histories and its hopes and dreams and desires and relationships and family. You forget that self entirely and you step into the world of the dream. But you're still the same person. You're still that higher self. You are still that universal. But you step into the dream and you pretend. You are convinced that the dream is real and that you exist separate and apart from your dreaming body. You believe that you are the dreamed body and you live accordingly. And this is really our situation in metaphor, most likely. I don't know that it's exactly like that, but it's certainly, the sages say that it's dependably like that. You can talk about it in that way. He exhorts people to cultivate that self-surrender to God. And so instead of neti, the denial, the pushing away, I'm not this, I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, instead of doing that, we cultivate a self-surrender that is motivated by a trust or a faith in an infinite love, in a love that doesn't have a boundary or a requirement. And it's through our relationship with that love, which produces a sense of grace. That grace is what motivates us and inspires us forward, gives us the confidence, gives us the courage, and gives us the desire to surrender, to let go, to drop into that infinity. And we need that because identifying as a body mind, it is a terror to think of being without one. We can't even, we're terrified of that. And so something has to coax us to let go of this fake sense of self that we pad with security, with a fake knowledge to give us comfort, to give us a sense of doership, to give us a sense of control and power and existence. And so we cling to it. Following the path of devotion, one realizes everything, right? So we get to the same goal. We realize the whole, we realize everything, but we do it through grace. That's where we find our confidence. That's where we find our courage. That's where we find our inspiration to let go, to absolutely surrender to it. Both knowledge and supreme wisdom is what our realization is. So we get that infinite wisdom that is the part of Satchitananda, that is spontaneous and infinite, and we get that knowledge, not the relational knowledge of mind, but this gnosis, this knowing of the oneness of all things, this knowing that we are not separate, we are not apart from the whole. And we can have that realization without the final realization. You can read several characters. Eckhart Tolle seems to have had that realization. Peace Pilgrim seems to have had that realization. Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, they've all seemed to have that realization that this oneness of all things. But it wasn't the highest realization because they didn't dissolve into it. They still maintained a separate sense of I, a separate sense of being. And so this is the goal of bhakti. This is what realization in bhakti looks like. We see that it is God that has become all of this. We fall in love with God. We come to know through that love, through our learning and growing and being enveloped in that love. We slowly become ourself, as it were. We slowly become our divine self through the inspiration of that love, and through that love we merge into oneness. We let go of we let go of our single life. We'll put it in householder terms. When you get married, you let go of your single life. You let go of all the things that you did as a single person, all the enjoyments, and running your own life as you wanted. You let go of all of that, and you adopt something greater, something that has a higher potential, something more beautiful, hopefully, if all goes well, through that relationship. And we are trying to manifest that unity in that relationship with our spouse, with our divine. And so in our relationship in our spiritual life, we're marrying the divine, and we're trying to become the best partner that we can be. And we're inspired to be that best partner because our other half, as it were, God, the beloved, is the perfect spouse, is the perfect partner. And so our learning is in both directions. Us trying to become the perfect partner to God, right? Letting go of our selfishness, letting go of our own agendas, of our own plans, of our own desires, letting go of that and trying to merge into this relationship with a perfect lover. And we're trying to realize the perfection of that lover. We're trying to see that everything that our partner is doing is done for our welfare. We're trying to develop that sense of trust, that sense of through faith, that we have married an infinite lover. God sports in this world. He is under the control of his devotee. Syama, the divine mother, is herself tied by the cord of love to her devotee. Right? So God, one of the things that Ramakrishna says, he might be saying it here in a few minutes, I'm not sure it's in a place like this, where he says that God is very conservative about giving out the realization of prema, or the highest love, because he becomes bound to us by that love. That if we have that supreme love for God, he simply can't say no to us. He simply can't pull away from us. And so he's conservative about giving out that kind of love, that level of love. You have to really, really, really want that. That's that longing for this. And he says, sometimes God becomes the magnet and the devotee the needle, right? So it's you that are being pulled toward God by your desire for supreme love, or your notion. I think it's more like you have a scent that you remember and you don't know why and you don't know where, but it's actually a memory of your free self, a memory of your infinite self, an imprint of some kind that you bring into this world, where you have an idea of what you are, but it's not clear and you can't remember exactly what it means or how to access it. And so you go about trying to reproduce it in this world. So we've talked about that all desire in this world is really you trying to mimic your supreme state in the finite. And so we're trying to create that sense of perfect security, through money, trying to get that sense of perfect unity through relationship, through friendship, through, sex, whatever, these different ideas of union, these different ideas of oneness. We're trying to reach our infinite wisdom, through knowledge, through scholarship, through knowing. And we're doing all of this really, and creating an ego, which is a pretend self that provides us with the security that we somehow remember we have, or that we are, but can't really figure out what we've done with it. Where have we put it? So sometimes God becomes the magnet, where he is the puller and the devotee is being pulled. And sometimes the devotee becomes the magnet and God the needle, right? So when there is that love, you actually have a pull on the divine. This is kind of pictured in that story when mother says, when the child is in the playroom, happy and content with its toys, the mother just leaves the child to enjoy itself in the playroom. But when that child calls out, when it's done playing and it wants its mother, scream, "Ma!" Well, mother comes running. So that's when the child or the devotee becomes the needle, and God, or becomes the magnet, and God becomes the needle. So it's love. It's the love that is the attracting force between you and the divine mother. So sometimes the devotee becomes that magnet and God the needle. The devotee attracts God to him. God is the beloved of his devotee and is under his control. Right? So that's why God's conservative about giving out that supreme love to us, because he just can't resist us. You can't say no to us in that regard. According to one school, the gopis of Vrindavan, like Yashoda, had believed in the formless God in their previous births, but they did not derive any satisfaction from this belief. That is why later on they enjoyed so much bliss in the company of Sri Krishna in the Vrindavan episode of his life. Very interesting posit here. I don't remember reading this one before, actually. This notion that the gopis of Vrindavan had a realization. They knew God as the formless. But, that's what Thakur prays also. He saw that realized sadhu who had realized through Gyana, this knowledge, this divine knowledge. And he was like, oh, don't make me a dry sadhu, because that path is really devoid of that emotional aspect, that love aspect, that bhakti aspect. And so he was like, oh no, don't make me a dry sadhu. I want to enjoy your presence. And so apparently he's positing here that the gopis of Vrindavan, the reason that they got such a wonderful gift of being able to sport their life with Krishna in such a wonderful direct love, was because it was the fulfillment of really what they were seeking in their relationship with the divine through jnana, but really didn't get. They didn't get that good sloppy emotional satisfaction, of a big kiss with God, an infinite union. So that's he says. So he says that's why later on they enjoyed so much bliss in the company of Sri Krishna in that Vrindavan episode of his life. One day Krishna said to the gopis, "Come along, I'll show you the abode of the eternal. Let us go to the Jamuna for a bath." As they dived into the water of the river, they at once saw Golaka. Next, they saw the indivisible light. Thereupon Yashoda exclaimed, "Oh Krishna, we don't care for these things anymore. We would like to see you in your human form. I want to take you in my arms. I want to feed you." Right? So they were like, no, 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 we don't want that. We're not looking for the merge. We're not looking for this big universal one without a second. We just want to hang out with you. You are so cool. We just enjoy being with you. That's really enough. We don't want all this other stuff. So it's quite quite lovely. Oh Krishna, we don't care for these things anymore. We want to see you in your human form. I want to take you in my arms. I want to feed you. So the greatest manifestation of God is through his incarnations. The devotee should worship and serve an incarnation of God as long as he lives in a human body. At the break of day, he disappears into the secret chamber of his house. Not all, by any means, can recognize an incarnation of God. Assuming a human body, the incarnation falls a victim to disease, grief, hunger, thirst, and all such things, like ordinary mortals. Rama wept for Sita. Brahman weeps, entrapped in the snare of the five elements. Jesus wept for Lazarus when he died. So they are subject to the gunas. It's through that knowledge of their willingness to participate in Maya, their willingness to subject themselves to the powers of the Divine Mother of Maya and a certain amount of delusion, that they enter in. It's like God putting a handle on Brahman. Brahman, the formless, we don't know what to think. We don't know how to approach. In a sense, there's no need to approach. There's no need to. We just don't get it because we're accustomed to form. We know form. And so God says, okay, well, let me give you a handle to grab onto. I'll take a form. I'll be a Jesus. I'll be a Buddha. I'll be a Rama. I'll be a Holy Mother. I'll come to you. And you can fall in love with me. That's all. Just fall in love with me. There's no other commandment. I'll come. I'll put on my best body. I'll put on my best mind. I'll put my purest heart in there, and I'll be born, and I'll walk among you. And your only instruction, your only responsibility is to fall in love with me. Let's do it. Let's get married. And and that's what we're doing through the bhakti path. We're falling in love with God by studying his attributes, studying his life, studying what pure love looks like, and falling in love with pure love is only the natural response. There's really nothing need be forced or nothing need be done outside of that. So we fall in love. It is said in the Purana that God, in his incarnation as the sow, as the pig, I love this story, lived happily with his young ones, even after the destruction of Hiranyaksha. As the sow, he nursed them and forgot all about his abode in heaven. At last, Shiva killed the sow body with his trident, and God, laughing aloud, went to his own abode. You see, that's how realization is. Right there. That is what's in store. You fall in love with God. You enjoy very much this, and you may like this arrangement, with you as this and God entrapped in your arms like that. But at some point, God's going to come and pop the illusion, and we'll come out laughing. That's what Sri Nisargadatta says. There's the only difference between the saint and the sinner, he says, is that when the sinner dies, he dies weeping. When the saint dies, he dies laughing, right? We get the joke. This is hilarious. And so we pop the illusion and we come out laughing and return to our abode, whatever that is, that one without a second. Through that love. In the afternoon, Bhavanath arrived. Rakal, M, Harish, and the other devotees were already in the room. The master said to Bhavanath, to love an incarnation of God, that's enough. Ah, what ecstatic love the gopis had for Krishna, right? And you can see him wistfully saying that because he was there. He was that Krishna. And so he remembers the love of the gopis, the intensity and the purity of that love. What ecstatic love the gopis had for Krishna. Sri Ramakrishna began to sing, assuming the attitude of the gopis. O Krishna, you are the soul of my soul. Then he sang, I'm not going home, O friend, for there it is hard for me to chant my Krishna's name. And again, O friend, that day I stood at my door as you were going to the woods. These wonderful songs of his time as Krishna with the gopis. And we see it even mirrored in Ramakrishna's Leela as Ramakrishna. That was the one desire that he had that kept him among us. That desire to be among the devotees of God. That desire to feel the love for and the love from the devotees. Continuing, the master said, when Krishna suddenly disappeared in the act of dancing and playing with the gopis, they were beside themselves with grief. Looking at a tree, they said, "O tree, you must be a great hermit. You must have seen Krishna. Otherwise, why do you stand there motionless as if absorbed in samadhi?" Looking at the earth covered with green grass, they said, "O earth, you must have seen Krishna. Otherwise, why does your hair stand on end? You must have enjoyed the thrill of his touch." Looking at the Madhavi creeper, they said, "O Madhavi, give us back our Madhava." The gopis were intoxicated with ecstatic love for Krishna. Akrura came to Vrindavan to take Krishna and Balarama to Mathura. When they mounted the chariot, the gopis clung to the wheels. They would not let that chariot move. Saying this, Sri Ramakrishna sang, assuming the attitude of Akrura. Hold not the chariot wheels. Is it the wheels that make it move? The mover of its wheels is Krishna, by whose will the worlds are moved. So there's a lot of beautiful little things in here that we've talked about, that we've hinted at before, and here you see how to do it. Remember, we talked about how when we're in love with God, everything in the universe points at him, right? Or her, points at that divine. And so you see that exactly right here. They look at the tree and they're like, "Oh, tree, you must be in the presence of God, that you've been able to stand there motionless for as long as you have. You must have seen God to enjoy that stillness, that samadhi, to realize that you need not go anywhere." You really get this feeling when you go see those, the redwood trees up in Northern California. These trees, to sit there and contemplate them. First, they're huge. If you haven't seen one, you can't imagine. I mean, the diameter of their trunks will be 16, 20, 25 feet, even 30. I mean, they're just huge. And their height, 230, 250 feet high. And they've been there for 1,000, 2,000, 2,500 years. And you look at that tree and you think, what wisdom has accumulated in this tree, the patience of standing in a single place for 2,500 years and growing, and in a redwood forest, there's no undergrowth because the light can't get down that low. So there's no branches and whatnot down there. It's just these towering pinnacles of tree everywhere. And they've been there for 2,000 years. And so the forest floor is thick with pine needles and is absolutely hushed in its silence. There's no birds, there's no crickets, there's no sounds in a redwood forest. It's absolute stillness. And you just get this idea, you just get this understanding. That tree has been standing there for 2,000 years. Yourself has been standing just as still within this imagined changing world for thousands of years, observing all of this, just observing the divine. And so he says, they look at the trees and they see, oh, see, you've seen God. Look at you. Look at the way you are, right? And then they go and they look at the earth itself. They said covered with green grass. And they said, oh, you must have seen Krishna. Why does your hair stand on end? Why does all the grass grow up? Your hair standing on end. So they know that the earth is in the presence of the beloved, right? They don't stop at the earth. They don't stop at the tree. They look through it and see God behind it all. They see their beloved behind it all. And that's what we do. That's what it means to be in love with God. You are in love with everything because you see God indicated by everything. The beauty of everything, the challenge of everything, the conflict in everything points to that one without a second. And so he's saying, this is a thing that and there's a warning in it too. Actually, don't get attached to the way things are. That's the danger of bhakti. We get attached to our particular incarnation of God, our particular ideal, and we get narrow-minded about it. We cling to it and want it to stay like it is. We don't want it to change. We don't want it to transcend, to be different. And they also felt that way about Krishna when it came time for him to return, to go back and be king. They're holding the chariot wheels. No, stay here. This is how we want you to be. This is it. They were getting that smallness of mind, right? And that's why the song says, don't hold the wheels still. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Don't be attached. Open yourself to a constant flow of unrepeating change, a continual display of the infinite manifestations of divine love. Right? Let the play go on. Don't attach to any particular manifestation. See everything as that manifestation. See the unity in the change. Don't try and create unity through the change. See the unity in the change. Master, is it the wheels that make it move? By whose will the worlds are moved? The driver moves the chariot at his master's bidding. I feel deeply touched by these lines. Because the master, of course he would. He makes that statement secretly to one of the disciples. That which you know is Krishna, that which you know is Rama, is now this before you, Ramakrishna. Right? Sunday, December 23rd, 1883. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the southwest porch of his room with Rakal, Latu, M, Harish, and some other devotees. M had now been 9 days with the master at Dakshineshwar. How wonderful. I can't even imagine. That's why Thakur tells us to occasionally, remember, we've talked about this ad infinitum. If I was a horrible, mean high school teacher, I'd go around and make all of you tell me when the last time you set some time aside and got out of your house and got out of your world and left your phone and your computer behind and spent a day or 2 days in a private place with God, right? I suspect we don't do that enough. So you should make a point of that. If you can do it once a month, if you can do it once every 2 months, whatever you can do, but you should consciously take some time to step out of your life as it is, however you can manage to do that for a day, for 2 days. If you can't do it for a whole day, certainly you can manage a half a day where you just go to a lake, go to the woods, go to the beach, go to a church, go to a temple, and just take 3 or 4 hours where nothing is there. You leave the phone behind, you leave everything behind, and you just have a date, as it were, just with the divine. Right? So we see here that M's the one that Thakur told, every now and then retreat, get away from the world. So here he is spending 9 days with Thakur at Dakshineshwar. Earlier in the morning, Manomohan had arrived from Konagar on his way to Calcutta Hasra too was present. A Vaishnava was singing. Referring to one of the songs, Sri Ramakrishna said, I didn't enjoy that song very much. The songs of the earlier writers seemed to me to have more of the right spirit. Once I sang for Nangta at the Panchavati, to arms, O man! Death storms your house in battle array. I sang another, O mother, I have no one else to blame. Alas, I sink in the well these very hands have dug. Isn't that the truth? We've created our mess and we sit in it wanting someone else to clean it up. Oh, help me. Right? And then we get all anxious because we don't understand the God that's doing this to us. But it's us, in fact, that are holding our own hands over our eyes. And it's our own self, the real self within us, that lets us free at the end of it. Nangta, the Vedantist, was a man of profound knowledge. The song moved him to tears, though he didn't understand its meaning. Padma Lochan also wept when I sang the songs of Ram Prasad about the Divine Mother, and he was truly a great pundit. After the midday meal, Sri Ramakrishna rested a few minutes in his room. M was sitting on the floor. The master was delighted to hear the music that was being played in the Nahabat. He then explained to M that Brahman alone has become the universe and all of its living beings. And this is why we love, because love has become all living beings, has become the whole universe. And to see that is to love that. To become aware of the nature of everything as love is to grow in bhakti, to grow in devotion, right? And to finally recognize the face of the divine in everything, to see that love first in everything. That's when it's getting close. Master, referring to a certain place, someone once said to me, nobody sings the name of God there. It has no holy atmosphere. No sooner did he say this than I perceived that it was God alone who had become all living beings. They appeared as countless bubbles or reflections in the ocean of Satchitananda. Again, I find sometimes that living beings are like so many pills made of indivisible consciousness. Once I was on my way to Burdwan from Karmarpakor. At one place, I ran to the meadow to see how living things are sustained. I saw ants crawling there. It appeared to me that every place was filled with consciousness. Right? This is just to see with those eyes. Run to the meadow to see how life is sustained. And you see the ants, and you see the bees, and you see the bugs, and you see the snakes, and you see the crawdads, and you see the prairie dogs, and all of it in a perfect harmony of life. Right? All of it in a perfect harmony of life. We see that. That's it's my favorite thing in the woods, is just observing how everything is in harmony. While describing in this way the vision of different divine forms, the master went into an ecstatic mood and said, I have become. I am here. Uttering these words, he went into samadhi. What a wonderful thing. Gives you a little bit of a hint. Just as he's slipping into samadhi, he says, what? I have become, right? I am being, to be and become. He's transcended. I am here. Where? Everywhere. He is here. Not in the sense when we say I'm here, we think in a particular. But he knows that here is not a particular. Here means you say that you can walk anywhere in the room you're in and you can say, I'm here, right? And when we say I'm here, we're always talking about the particular place we're standing in. But Ramakrishna at this point, he has become the here, which is everywhere. I am here. Uttering these words, he went into samadhi. His body was motionless. He remained in that state a long time, and then gradually regained partial consciousness of the world. He began to laugh like a boy and pace the room. His eyes radiated bliss as if he had seen a wondrous vision. His gaze was not fixed on any particular object, and his face, it beamed with joy. Still pacing the room, the master said, I saw the Paramahamsa who stayed under the banyan tree walking thus with just such a smile. Am I too in that state of mind? He sat on the small couch and engaged in conversation with the Divine Mother. I don't even care to know, Mother. May I have pure love for your lotus feet. One attains this state immediately after freeing oneself from all grief and desire. See, that's the way to talk about it. One feels this way after, but just listen to those words. One attains the state immediately after freeing oneself of all grief and desire. That is the mature and proper way to describe renunciation. Right? Renunciation is exactly that, freeing oneself of all grief and desire, getting rid of it, being free, being free. This is renunciation. So we attain this joy, this bliss, this radiant existence, this massive inspiration to be when we free ourselves from all grief, right? And all desire. They are the same thing, grief and desire. Right? Because your desire never fills you. It always leaves you in the grieving when it's gone. When the fulfillment is finished, we're left with grief because of our attachment. But we free ourselves of that by knowing they can give us nothing that we don't already have, that they are just projections, they're just reflections of me, the me of me, the me of you, the me of everyone, the same me that is in all of us. One attains this state immediately after freeing oneself from all grief and desire to the Divine Mother. Mother, you have done away with my worship. Please see, Mother, that I don't give up all desire. Mother, the Paramahamsa is but a child. Doesn't a child need a mother? Therefore, you are the mother. I'm the child. How can the child live without the mother? Sri Ramakrishna was talking to the Divine Mother in a voice that would have melted even a stone. Again, he addressed her, saying, mere knowledge of Advaita, I spit on it. This mere knowledge of Advaita, you see what he's saying? All of this philosophy, this mind knowing, this fact knowing, this relational knowing that we call learning in our secular self. What's he say about that? He says, I spit on it. It's worthless compared to what it points to, right? Compared to what it's pointing to. But the knowledge itself without assimilation, the knowledge itself without transcendence, the knowledge itself without understanding, I spit on it. It's worthless. Mere knowledge of Advaita, I spit on it. You exist as long as you keep the ego in me. The Paramahamsa is but a child. Doesn't the child need a mother? M sat there speechless. He looked at the divine manifestation in the master. He said to himself, the master is an ocean of mercy that knows no motive. He has kept himself in the state of a Paramahamsa that he might, as a teacher, awaken my spiritual consciousness of myself and other earnest souls. M further thought, the master says Advaita, Chaitanya, Nityananda, that is to say, through the knowledge of the non-dual Brahman, one attains consciousness and enjoys eternal bliss. The master has not only attained the knowledge of non-duality, but is in a state of eternal bliss. He is always drunk with ecstatic love for the mother of the universe. With folded hands, Hazra looked at the master and said every now and then, how blessed you are. How blessed you are. The master to Hazra, but you have hardly any faith. You simply live here to add to the play like Jatila and Kutila. In the afternoon, M paced the temple garden alone. He was deeply absorbed in the thought of the Master and was pondering the Master's words concerning the attainment of the exalted state of the Paramahamsa. After the elimination of grief and desire, M said to himself, "Who is this Sri Ramakrishna acting as my teacher? Has God embodied himself for our welfare?" The Master himself says that no one but an incarnation can come down to the phenomenal plane from the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. You see, so M is being a bhakta there. He's showing you how to be a bhakta, to walk back and forth on the temple grounds and ponder the life of the Master. Sit there trying to figure out, what does it mean? What am I learning? How does this affect me? What has he said? What did he mean when he said that? This is how we fall in love, by thinking of our lover, by remembering the beauty of our lover, the handsomeness of our lover, to walk with our lover. That's how we fall in love. And every bit of practice that you do is that date, that opportunity to fall in love with God. And so if we're doing it right, we'll be so inspired. You know, I just remember that feeling in high school for me, you know, finding that person that I thought I loved at the time. And you know, the first thing I always did for anybody that I liked was make a card for them, you know, and how much I was overwhelmed with my fascination at the moment with that person. That would determine how much effort I put into that card. But there were some cards I made that took me days and days, and it was so joyful. I couldn't wait to finish it, and I couldn't wait to give it to them. And what a joy that was to hand it over to them. And really, that's the spirit of practice right there. Your practice is your love letter to your divine, to the beloved. And your energy that you put into it is your skill and your artistry. You know, the sincerity and earnestness and heart that you include in that work as you sit there singing the name, or sit there making a prayer, or sit there burning incense, or waving a candle, or offering a flower. You do it consciously on a date with your beloved, your divine beloved. Forget the rules. There are no rules in this relationship. There's only love. All right? Forget the shoulds. There are no shoulds. There's only inspiration in this relationship with the divine. Monday, December 24th, 1883. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Sri Ramakrishna and M were talking together in the pine grove at the northern end of the temple garden. This was the 11th day of M's stay with the Master, so he's been here 2 more days, 11 days now. It was winter. The sun had just risen. The river was flowing north with the tide. Not far off could be seen the bell tree where the Master had practiced great spiritual austerities. Sri Ramakrishna faced the east as he talked to his disciple and told him about the knowledge of Brahman. Master, the formless God is real, and equally real is God with form. Nangta used to instruct me about the nature of Sat Chit Ananda Brahman. He would say that it is like an infinite ocean, water everywhere, to the right, the left, above and below, water enveloped in water. It is the water of the great cause, motionless. Waves spring up when it becomes active. Its activities are creation, preservation, and destruction. Right? So you see that in yourself. You are this infinite ocean, water among water, just the vast stillness of water. And then you became a bubble. You became an individual. You thought of yourself as separate and apart. And because of that, the ocean is churned, the mind is churned into creation, the whole universe that you create. And you spend your days on this earth as a body mind, creating, sustaining, and destroying. Right? All of us do this. All of us are constantly in a state of creating or sustaining or destroying, or all of them at once in different veins, different activities. And some people are more prone to destruction. You know, they can't wait to find a good mural so they can go up and spray paint their name across the middle of it. They can't wait to build a big tower of blocks so they can knock it over, right? So there are those among us who are primary destroyers. And then we've got those among us who are primary creators who they just can't bottle their creativity. They're always creating, always exploring, always making. And then we have our sustainers, those who people just want everybody to be okay. Just keep everything good, keep everything happy. And this is what life is. We are just manifesting our nature. That's all. It doesn't have to be on a timeline with a purpose and a cause and effect. It could be just sitting in this moment always, being a bubble of manifesting energy of God, manifesting pure love, pure wisdom through our being. Again, he used to say that Brahman is where reason comes to a stop, right? Every thought, everything comes to a stop, because in the moment there is no change. In the moment there is only manifestation, there is only isness. Brahman is where reason comes to a stop. There is the instance of camphor. Nothing remains after it is burned, not even a trace of ash. Brahman is beyond mind and speech, right? We've talked that, because for speech in particular, you need subject-object relationship. You need past, present, future. You need space-time causation. For a language, words cannot exist without that triad, without that stretching them out, giving them an order. So Brahman is beyond that. He can't be put into time. He can't be put into space. He can't be put into causation, right? And he's beyond mind, beyond active mind. He can't be pictured. He can't be caught. Why? Because he is the container of mind. A salt doll entered the ocean to measure its depth, but it did not return to tell others how deep the ocean was. It melted into the ocean itself. There was no one to return, right? This is how we know that we will never be realized. We will never be realized. Why? Because there's God that realizes God over and over and over again. Because realization is of our non-existence as an ego self, as a separate self. So we just become God, letting go of the delusion of Vance or Swami C, letting go of the delusion of a Priya or a Kuki or a Sarah or any other name out there. You know, it's your dissolution. We let go. So we don't realize God, because realization is that there is no this particular. There's only that universal self, the universal lover, the universal wisdom. And thou art that, right? So we just drop off this wrong idea. The rishis once said to Rama, "O Rama, sages like Bharadvaja may very well call you an incarnation of God, but we can't do that. We adore the word Brahman, right? Or the symbol of Brahman. We do not want the human form of God." Rama smiled and went away, pleased with their adoration, right? So the rishis were gyanis. They didn't want this love nonsense. They didn't want him as a person. We want that vast ocean of consciousness. We want the vast ocean of light. We want that infinite freedom. We don't want any forms, any cages for anybody, right? We do not want the human form of God. And God's not, as Rama, who was an incarnation, he walks away smiling. He's like, okay, I get it. You don't want this way. But the Nitya and the Leela are the two aspects of the same reality, right? The absolute unchanging and the world of constant unrepeated change are inseparable. One infers the other. One cannot exist without the other, right? As I have said before, it is like the roof and the steps leading up to it. The absolute plays in many ways, as Ishvara, as the gods, as man, and as the universe. The incarnation is the play of the absolute as man. Do you know how the absolute plays as man? It is like the rushing down of water from a big roof through a pipe, the power of Satchitananda, Nay, Satchitananda itself descends through the conduit of a human form as water descends through the pipe, right? So right now, your life energy, that is Satchitananda flowing from your beloved through this drain pipe of a body mind and coming out as your expression of it. How are you using that infinite love that's rushing into your body right now as life? How are you using that wisdom that's rushing into your body now as life? What are you doing? How are you manifesting yourself, this nature, this beloved, this divine? What song are you singing? What is its name? What is its title? Think about it and become aware of it, because that is your offering. That is what you are. And that is what life is. It's not a from here to there. It's not a production line of getting somewhere else. It's mastering the moment for a perfect expression of your divine nature, with no limitation, no shortcoming, no restriction of hatred or selfishness of any kind. It descends through the conduit of a human form as water descends through a pipe. Only 12 sages, Bharadwaja and the others, recognized Rama as an incarnation of God. Not everyone can recognize an incarnation. It is God alone who incarnates himself as man to teach people the ways of love and knowledge. Well, what do you think of me? Ramakrishna asks. Once my father went to Gaya. There Raghuvir said to him in a dream, I shall be born as your son. Thereupon my father said to him, O Lord, I am a poor Brahmin. How shall I be able to serve you? Don't you worry about it, Raghuvir replied. It will be taken care of. My sister, Hriday's mother, used to worship my feet with flowers and sandal paste. One day I placed my foot on her head and I said to her, you will die in Benares. Once Mathur Babu said to me, Father, there is nothing inside you but God. Your body is like an empty shell. It may look like form from the outside, like a pumpkin, but inside there is nothing, neither flesh nor seed. Once I saw you as someone moving with a veil on. To M, I am shown everything beforehand. Once I saw Gauranga and his devotees singing kirtan in the Panchavati. I think I saw Balaram there, and you too. I wanted to know the experiences of Gauranga and was shown them at Shyam Bazar in our native district. A crowd gathered. They even climbed the trees and the walls. They stayed with me a day and a night. For 7 days, I had no privacy whatever. Thereupon I said to the Divine Mother, Mother, I've had enough of it. I am at peace now. I shall have to be born once more. Therefore, I'm not giving all knowledge to my companions, with a smile. Suppose I give you all knowledge. Will you then come to me again so willingly? All right, so we'll stop there for the day. Like that.